Hi, Mark Farquhar here, and I'm just going to give you a brief rundown on things to consider when you're choosing probably any race abroad, but an Ironman 70.3 or even age group race. So my name is Mark Farquhar. I've competed in about 15 Ironman full distance races, something similar in terms of 70.3, numerous national series races locally. I've competed at the Ironman World Championships, 70.3 World Championships, and the age group long distance World Championships as well. So I have a wee bit of insight into racing abroad, and I just thought I'd share some of my knowledge and some of the knowledge I have with my athletes that I've coached with you. Okay, I think this is the number one. I start with this. It's your why. Okay, when choosing to go long distance, that's a whole different topic. If you're stepping up for the first time, your why factor is really important. It'll be the one that'll get you to sign up for the race, but you also need to remember that day in day out of why you're doing this. That's the one that's going to get you out of your bed every morning and keep you motivated, and that's huge. And if it's not powerful enough, then 3-4 months into your training block, you may struggle to keep consistent training, which is ultimately the key to getting to any finish line. So give that some thought process. You may want to do it for yourself ultimately. You may have a time and goal in mind. You may have a charity reason to do it, or doing it for someone else. These are all important. If it's your first time, then certainly there's a lot of learning along the way. Are you prepared for that? Are you realistically going to commit to the time? Do you know what the time commitments might be? Are you just looking to cross the finish line? You still have to put the training in. Certainly if you're going full distance, it's nothing to be underestimated, the time commitments. And again, I might be doing another wee post around that in terms of, what would you ultimately be thinking of training hours and volume and so on, because I think that's a shock for some people. But today's focus is really around things to consider when choosing that race abroad. So we'll start off with time of the year, and there's a few different thought processes in this. Quite often I hear, want to do it at the start of the year, keeps me honest over winter, and then I'm going to have an amazing season afterwards. And it doesn't quite happen like that, I have to say. Yes, the motivation over winter works, and to be fair, most people, so say for instance Ironman Lanzarote, typically at the end of May, keeps people in the UK and Ireland motivated over winter, and then the race is in May. Couple issues with that: struggling in the sea for practicing sea swimming in advance of the race, and then the other big thing that I've seen is the drop off because of the recovery. 2-4 weeks after the race, you've done nothing, and then you're struggling to pick yourself up, and you only get your fitness back towards the end of the season. Okay, so it's not as good as it sounds, but it can work, and some athletes have made it work, and had a great season afterwards. Middle of the year works really well for families. So if you're going, say, June, July, August, you can maybe extend it. You can go for 7 days, 10 days, family holiday. Downside to that is there's very few big races in sunny conditions, seaside conditions, over June and July, August, because tourist destinations don't want an Ironman at that time of the year. End of the year works really well. Places like Wales, Italy, Barcelona, Portugal, they all work really well, but they don't fit with a school calendar if that's important to you. But they do allow you to train all year. They allow you to enjoy loads of races over the summer and to build up that fitness gradually in the better weather. If you know you have an Ironman or a big race towards the end of the year, you generally keep honest over the winter prior to that as well. Okay, things to consider then is clashes with dates, other dates, family weddings, your own wedding, school holidays, functions. If you're thinking about doing any studying or courses, things also to consider. So that's a really important factor, the time of the year. Okay, so we talked around an early season race. So this is just a wee graph, and this is a typical example. You can see here, this point is where the build fee is leading into Ironman in May. This was Ironman Lanzarote, and this maintained a little bit of heavy training afterwards and just dropped off continually the rest of the year. You can see a few races here, here, and here, but the fitness continued to drop. That's resulted in poor recovery after the Ironman, and fitness continued to drop with this athlete. So that's important to remember. Okay, you can have this lovely build over winter, kept honest, really good build into it, probably achieved pretty decent results at the Ironman, but didn't recover enough afterwards, and fitness dropped dramatically at the end of the year. This one, another example, again, early season race, and this wasn't a long distance, this was a 70.3. Great build into it, and good big training block, and it's not highlighted here, but this is the A race here, so a bit of a taper into it. Reasonable summer of racing, 70.3 races, and then a massive off season. Okay, so you're probably seeing a trend here in this off season. Again, things to consider around the time of the year, and that just gives a couple of examples of how the fitness has risen leading into it, the progressive training load, and peaking for that race, and then maintaining good fitness into the rest of the season. Okay, some of the nitty gritty. Location. Some of this stuff's really important to people. Maybe you haven't thought about it, you're just focused on hearing about this amazing race, you want to do it. But these are important factors, and quite often it could depend on who you're traveling with, and what your objectives are. But things to consider: city, seaside, or rural. Okay, so most of these races are in either city centre locations or seaside locations. So what do you want from the venue? Do you want a beach holiday to be included, or do you want to go and travel and see the sights of a beautiful city? Some big cities like Copenhagen, right in the city centre, absolutely beautiful location. Bolton was always in the city centre. Then you look at other places like Wales, a small seaside fishing village, not really, well, it has a beach, but it's not really known for its beach holidays. Then you have other places like Ironman Barcelona. It's not in Barcelona, it's in Calila, which is about 30-40k away. Still a lovely seaside village, seaside town, touristy, loads of hotels, restaurants. These are things you want to think about. Even into the accommodation, anyone that raced Ironman Cork seen that there was poor accommodation, not enough to fulfill the needs of all the people, and so they had to get local residents to share out houses. Airbnb probably kept the cost down. These are things you want to check out in advance before you sign up to a race that sounds lovely, but that you're struggling to get accommodation. How close to the race venue? Okay, so it sounds great, I've got a hotel, it's 5k from the race venue. How are you going to get to the race venue on the morning with the roads closed? Okay, you've racked your bike the day before. Are you going to get a taxi? How close can the taxi get to the race start? Can you get a taxi at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning? These are things you need to think about. Traveling to that venue is also important. In most cases, if you're going abroad, you'll need to take a flight. And is it direct flights, or do you need to take 2 flights? Are you going to ship your bike through a local shipping company, or are you going to use your own bike box or hire a bike box? Again, things to consider. Double flights tend to see some issues with bike boxes not arriving at the same time. In most cases, they arrive the next day, and that's not really an issue. Things to consider. Costs. This is the big one, okay, and a lot of people underestimate their costs of traveling abroad. Okay, you do well to keep it under £1,000 if you're going solo. Let's be honest. So some of these entry fees could be £500 or £600. But the beauty about it is you can probably pay them all. They're not going to be like a package holiday. You can pay them off individually. I would recommend you probably do something like booking.com with accommodation, and it's like you don't need to pay for it until a few weeks beforehand. Then secure your slot for the race, and at the same time keep an eye on your flights. Okay, the sooner you book all those, then you know it's all there and you've started. Okay, but it's very important that you don't get carried away. Don't use the race official hotels because they're normally extortionate prices. They are close to the venue, but for another few hundred meters or a kilometer down the road, you can get maybe an Airbnb at half the price. The course. Does the course suit you? That's the bottom line here. Does it suit your skill set, your experience, and would you feel comfortable on that course? So split or single transitions. This is becoming more and more popular. Double transitions, which means transition 1 is in a different location to transition 2. To be fair, in most of the big races, they manage it really, really well. So they may bring your bags from T1 to T2 or from T1 to the finish line, and it's all there and it's well organized. The race organizations are normally pretty good with that. So don't fear it, but just be aware of it. If it causes you anxiety or stress, if you think it's going to cause you anxiety or stress on race day, then you might want to avoid it. Quite a lot of age group athletes are new to swimming. Swimming's maybe not your strongest point. Then if you don't have experience in sea water, then it might be something either you need to work on or at least consider. Sea water gives you added buoyancy, and that could be a plus. It's mostly wetsuit in most cases, so keep an eye on your water temperature, choppy waters. Whereas a lake swim or a river swim, the consistency year in year out is more level. And you can check back over the years on race reports, on athlete guides to see more about the race conditions. Bike, if it's a full distance Ironman, 112 miles, 180k, you're going to be in the bike for 5, 6, 7 hours. Do you want to be going up and up hills like Lanzarote, like Wales, like Bolton traditionally? Big climbing races. Don't be underestimated. Challenge Roth is still about 5,000 feet of climbing. It's lumpy, but it's fast. It's good tarmac. These are all things you need to do in your research towards what type of race you want to take part in. The run course. To be fair, most long distance run courses, they're normally like 10k loops, like 4 10k loops on a seaside promenade. Loads of people, bars, restaurants, good atmosphere. Our city centre, normally pretty flat. Most of them are. Ironman Wales is probably the hilliest run course around. Ironman St George in Utah, America. These two run courses are very hilly. The rest of them are normally flat. Weather, big one abroad. Could you cope in 30 degrees temperature? 35. So again, if you haven't trained in it, you haven't practiced it, then it's very hard to acclimatise unless you've got, well, there's plenty of hints and tips you can do at home, but how would you react in that condition? There's loads of other things, resources. Athlete Guide in the previous year and previous results will give you loads of ideas and hints and tips of where, what the conditions are like and what to expect. Okay, a couple other wee things just to finish off. Your travel partners, and this is quite important. So are you going with a bunch of club mates? Is it more relaxed carnival atmosphere? Are you going for 70.3? It's half the day effectively, and you can go out that evening after the race and have a bit of fun. Is it a full iron you're thinking about, where it's going to be a full day and realistically there's not going to be a party that evening? Are you traveling home the next day? Do you want to stay for a couple of days and celebrate your achievement? What was your objective? And again, we keep coming back to your why factor, your objective. What are you looking to get out of this? Maybe you're going for 3 days before the race and staying for 7 days after the race with a family. And you can incorporate your summer holiday into that as well. These are just thoughts for you to do. How long do you need to be out in the big bad location? 70.3 you can turn around generally in 3 days. Now that's tight. That's tight. I wouldn't recommend it because in most cases you need to register either 2 days or at least 1 day before the race. You need to rack your bike the day before and put in your bike bag, your bike and run bags. So 3 days is tight, and that means you're coming home the day after. And that's fine if you want to do that. Keep costs down and save on your annual leave from work or whatever. Full distance, I would certainly recommend 5 days if you can. 7 is ideal. 5 days I would say for definite, but you definitely want to be there 2 days beforehand, especially if it's hot climate. You want to climatize and get used to the conditions. Okay, that's me. Loads to fire at you, loads to consider for traveling abroad, whether it's a challenge race, Ironman, a world triathlon race, loads of things. They all come back, I think, to your why factor. What do you want out of this? And that really then sort of dictates the location you're going to and the type of race you're going to do. So any questions, drop me a WhatsApp or a private message, and I'll more than help and share some knowledge of myself and some of the athletes I've coached. All right, thank you.